another episode of the challenge, Final Reckoning, where it's about the house drama. We do get to see a competition, but still a lot of house drama and also a lot of sort of recovering from last week's episode. The consequences of Polly's accent.
Can I ask you something?
Actions, not accident. Yes, go ahead and ask me something.
Sorry, that's my bad. But my question for you, John, is where do you stand on this season so far? Because I feel like for the first couple weeks, I was the one trying to be like, nope, it's going to be okay. This is just all a big setup. It's going to start picking up. And it still hasn't picked up yet. Like, it's still not like classic challenge fans remember, right? Old school classic episodes would be you have a competition, and then you have the deliberation, then you have an elimination, all in one episode. Now, mixed into that, you might get a club scene added in, you might get some house drama added in, maybe. But for the most part, that's how every single episode went. So far this season, it seems like we're only getting either a challenge or an elimination, and that's it per episode. And then it's all house drama. But the problem is, the house drama is not even that dramatic. Like, I don't even really care about the drama.
Before I answer your question, I am John Chidley Hill.
I see what you did there. And I guess this is where I'm supposed to say, and I am Sheldon Alexander.
Yeah, that's ideal. And this is You Killed It, the podcast about the challenge. Of course, talking about Final Reckoning, which, to answer your question, I'm enjoying it, but I'm with you that I'm sick of... I don't like the pacing, I guess. I don't like you said, they used to have a very standard format. Like one sort of setup challenge and then one elimination every episode. And maybe from time to time to build the drama, they would have an elimination sort of... They would go to the credits, they would wrap up the episode, and you don't know how the elimination ended, but then you'd find out to like kick off. I prefer that format, and like you could go back to you could do the like cliffhanger ending from like once or twice a season, but like on this episode, there was at the end, I literally said, wait, why are there credits going? Like, I want to see what Brad's about to say to Brittany. And I think a big part of the problem is the redemption house.
Well, my whole thing was like, I didn't even care what Brad was going to say to Brittany, right? Like, I don't even really care. Like, she's not even in the house anymore. Chuck's not in the house anymore. Paulie's in the redemption house, so he's in a separate house from Brad. Like, again, the house drama stuff, like, I don't even really care about what's going on with this house drama stuff, right? And so you got to show me the gameplay. And I keep telling myself, what episode are we in now? What episode of this season? 4 or 5?
Five.
Like, business has to pick up soon, right? Because I refuse to believe that a full season of the challenge is going to go by and it's going to be like this. Like, it's going to be this boring. Like, I don't think that's what's going to happen. Right? Like, I'm a firm believer in this challenge series that business will pick up. I'm just stunned that 5 episodes in, we've had maybe, I think, 1 good episode we can agree on.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, I think a big problem for me in terms of the formatting, and I know some other viewers, is the redemption house.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond, like... Just picture the season without the redemption house at all. Sure, we would not have had the drama of Polly and stuff, but like things would be moving a lot faster without the redemption house, right? Like people, when they lose, they'd be gone, and that would it, and they'd move on, and there would be more forward momentum in terms of gameplay rather than house drama. Like, there'd still be political drama, but there would be less social house drama. And it also reminded me of a point, because people have been talking about Camilla a little bit lately online. I don't know if you've seen this.
I have not seen this. I have not.
Well, first of all, she is Louise Hazel recently put out, or this week put out, a new line of like swimwear and workout wear.
Okay.
Something sleigh related. Sleigh Athletics, I can't remember. Anyway, Camilla is one of the models that she used.
Oh.
And
okay.
Someone also posted on the Challenge Fans Facebook group about how like they miss Camilla and they like Camilla back. And I just keep thinking about what Wes told us. And I think Wes made a really good point, and it was backed up by Emily. And that is, a lot of the people who are on the show constantly are burnt out.
Yeah.
And Wes thinks that that's what Camilla's blow up was about, was that she was just like emotionally exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we see a little bit of that in CT now, right? Like the people who are doing the challenge and then Champs versus whatever, Champs versus Stars. So Tori would be an example. Johnny Bananas. Like they're kind of at their breaking point.
Okay.
And it occurred to me that the Redemption House is making that worse.
What do you mean?
Well, we'll use CT, and this is skipping ahead, but we'll use CT and Veronica as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
CT and Veronica lost a Purge elimination competition this week. If there's no Redemption House, they would go home. Like they would be leaving South Africa, and they would be back in North America. And instead of being like a 6-week commitment, it would be a 1-week commitment or whatever. And that means that's 5 more weeks of getting back to their regular lives. CT being with Chris Jr., Veronica hanging out with Jemmy, like, you know, whatever they do.
Okay.
But instead, they're sitting in the Redemption House for another week or maybe another 2 weeks. Maybe they earn their way back into the regular house. You see what I mean? Like the Redemption House, they have all these competitors who are getting burnt out because they're doing season after season after season. And the Redemption House is keeping them in the cycle instead of letting them go back to their real lives and recharge. And like in my mind, the two are tied. And you know, I think obviously we've seen a lot of drama carried over from previous seasons, especially this sort of trilogy that they're in the midst of. Or I guess this is the final reckoning of that trilogy. But like part of what's making there be so much house drama is that no one's getting a chance to like heal their wounds or move on.
See,
like,
I don't know. I feel like I know what you're saying, but I don't know if that plays a role in like how bad this show is getting. And I'm using bad with air quotes because I don't really mean bad. I just mean the level of consistent drama or consistent entertainment that I'm used to from this show doesn't seem to be there. And I think that it's because, you know, the Redemption House has a twist, you know, someone getting eliminated and then coming back into the game is a great twist in theory and on paper. But I think in reality, what's really happening is the stretching out of seasons, right? Like you have a brand name in terms of the challenge, and clearly you have all these other MTV shows, whether it's X on the Beach, whether it's Are You the One, and all these other shows that are doing okay on MTV, but now you're trying to take those main characters and bring them onto the tried and true brand of the challenge, right? And now you're trying to explode that brand into like the next level, like take that into the next level of reality shows. And I think while you're doing that, there's almost like a Venn diagram where you have like one thing going and it's, you know, this is the success of the challenge. And then you have the other thing going where it's like, this is where other reality shows are. And it's like, you're trying to get to that point, but the things that you have to do with the challenge to get to that point, you know what I mean? Like it seems like it's kind of taking away from what the show is actually good at. Right. And I think last night before the challenge came on, you know, it's summertime when I try to talk myself into watching Bachelor in Paradise, right? Mm-hmm. And so I have it on and I'm like, this is so ridiculous. Like I can't, like I get it. And again, I like looking at beautiful women. So I understand like how people end up watching these shows. Like, I get it, I understand it, but I'm like, this is so annoying, right? And so I understand it in doses, and that was the beauty of the challenge. You got a lot of that, relationship drama in doses on the challenge, but the big portion of it was still the competition and the gameplay and all that stuff, and we're not getting that yet so far. And no. I think that's the problem, and it's all being stretched out. And so the gameplay of, the Redemption House, but there's no real drama added to that because we're not surprised by it anymore. Paulie and them were already sent. They've been sent there twice already in 5 episodes. Like, that's ridiculous. That's not even a good twist. That's not a good gameplay twist, right? Like, we're just not getting enough juice yet. And I know there's the other side of me, John, that's trying to say, relax. The drama's coming. It's going to get good. But I just need it to come next week. I really, really, really do.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some drama, but not pleasurable drama. Does that make sense?
You know what's funny? So did you forget already about DJ Mel and Kayla's fight?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that seems so long ago, right? And it's only 4 episodes ago and the start of the season, and yet it seems so long ago, but nothing else has really happened, and that's so pathetic to me, right? Like, it just seems so like the show is dragging along, and at this pace it might not end until Christmas, you know what I mean? And it just seems like it's dragging way too much, and we need to get back to just some classic, here's a challenge, here's who lost, here's the nominations, here's who people are voting for, here's an elimination round, and I'll even settle for a cliffhanger at the end of the elimination round, right? Like, I'll settle for that. But, like, I need more of the actual drama. And don't get me wrong, hey, when I saw the club scene on Tuesday night's episode, I was like, okay, hey, there's something we all know and love, and even that let me down. So I don't know, John. I don't know.
I'm with you. It is... I guess I'm craving structure. Like a toddler, I need more structure in my life.
Nothing wrong with that. You know who does need structure? Who needs structure? I think Kyle might need some structure. I mean, he starts off the episode by looking directly into the camera and saying, if Paulie does, I got a message for you. If you do come back into this house, I'm going to beat the heck out of you.
I forget. So I forget who said it, but one of the challengers, I want to say it was Amanda, maybe it was someone else. I apologize that I can't remember, and it's too hard to look up. But one of them tweeted that there was an edit there on the Paulie Kyle fight, and then when Kyle wanted to fight Paulie and like charged forward, it's not because Paulie called him a pussy.
Oh,
but Paulie said something else that got Kyle livid. So although if you just watch the show and you're not on Twitter and you don't know that, you're like, Kyle, you're kind of overreacting to being called a pussy. Like, Brad is handling things much better than you are. Apparently something else was said that set Kyle off.
Okay. So it's deeper than that. That's cool.
In fairness to Kyle.
That is research, friends. That is research. So yeah, Kyle's fired up. Paulie's obviously so fired up, sent to the Redemption House. But the other twist here is that we got Davon and Jose. Davon and Jose are now back into the regular house, and they have the benefit of having some extra info, right? Because if you remember in one of the earlier episodes, while in the Redemption House, there was a scene where people were shown clips of what was going on in the regular house. So now Davon and Jose come up with this idea where they're going to tell the rest of the house, hey, so just so you guys know, what goes on in the Redemption House is we get to see conversations and stuff that's going on in the house. Now, what do you think of this strategy that they're using coming back in? Because the only part that we saw that they were shown was the fight, right, between Kayla and DJ Mel. Like, did we see them getting to see anything else? I don't think so, right?
No, I'm pretty sure they just saw the fight.
So then, the flip side to that, to me, would be, okay, so now that we know that they're exaggerating a little bit, what do you think of this gameplay this strategy that Davon and Jose are using in terms of trying to big up just kind of the info that they might have to try to garner more information from people in the house. What do you think of that strategy?
I'm not. I'm torn on this because on the one hand, I like Davon's logic that like these people all have their walls up, but now they're coming to me.
Ooh. Okay.
Like I thought that was smart. I thought that was smart logic, and I thought she made a good point. But on the other hand, I'm not convinced it's a good idea because, like, if you're going to flex that you have power and information, because information is power,
Yes.
what happens when you don't actually have any information? Like, what happens when you get found out that it was just posturing?
Yeah, like someone's going to call your bluff, right?
Yeah.
Or at least someone
also,
should be calling their bluff.
Also, I mean, Davon's right. She and Faith have a little conversation where Faith says, hey, they're coming after the rookies. And Davon's like, yeah, no shit, they always do. Have you not seen this show? Which, like, shout out to Davon. I loved her on this episode. I'm increasingly a Davon fan.
Mama Day.
But she, like, if they're already coming for you, they're only going to be threatened if you're powerful. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's one thing to be like, yeah, they always come after the rookies. But on top of that, if they think that you're a powerful rookie, like if they think that they have reason to be scared of you, you're going to move to the top of the rookie list of people to go out.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. See, I was going to maybe go the other way, right? Because I'm with you where I'm kind of sitting on the fence because I think it's like a slippery slope, right? Like you don't want to overplay your hand, right? And you could get into a situation where you're overselling what info you actually have or what you might know. And so if that is the case, then you're in trouble. Then you're definitely at the top of the hit list of, what the other house guests would be worried about. But if you don't have that information, which they clearly don't, and they don't really believe in you, you could be tiptoeing the line where maybe they are kind of worried and maybe they stay away from you, or maybe they want to work with you and have you on their side, right? Like we saw the intense looking conversation. We don't know how intense it actually was, but it was an intense looking conversation between Davon, Kara, I think Marie was in there, and there's someone else I'm forgetting for sure.
Tori?
Tori, yes, it was Tori. And it looked like they were having kind of an information session, so to speak, right? And I think it was Tori alluding to the fact that she was kind of curious, right? Like, I wonder what kind of things they did see, right? Because that would have me worried. If I'm someone in the house and you're telling me, hey, they were allowing people in the Redemption House to see certain clips, that would have me worried, right? Because I'd wonder, like, what kind of gameplay stuff have they seen? Like, do they know our alliance? Which I don't know if there's alliances set up, but I guess there kind of are. You know what I mean? But I'd be worried nonetheless. So on the one hand, I see it being a good move. But on the other hand, I think they might be overplaying their hand, John. And further to that point, I think they're overplaying their hand with the whole Brad thing. Because I think this is where you could... So for those, just to like reaffirm, in case you forgot what happened in this episode, listeners, before Paulie left, Paulie started throwing out all this stuff about Brittany cheating. Jose and Davon's idea is that they're going to try to like play this up to make it more of an issue in the house, because if Brad's kind of, for lack of a better term, thrown off his game, that's only better for their game. Now, what do you think of that side of the strategy in terms of, because I feel like they could have played it two ways. He could have just been like, Paulie's just exaggerating, like she's just being Brittany, flirting Brittany, but like I didn't see anything that actually happened. I don't think you have anything to worry about. Which in reality, I don't think they have anything. He should have anything to worry about. Or you could give explicit details of things, but kind of phrase it in a way that would make it seem like you have something to worry about, which is what Jose did, no? What did you think of that strategy?
I mean, my concern is that Brad is an emotional guy, and like they might see this as lighting a fuse,
Yeah.
on a time bomb, but maybe it's lighting a forest fire in which they'd be enveloped. You know what I mean? So,
Yes.
like, in my mind, the thing, and maybe this is just like a moral, ethical question, but in my mind, you just tell them exactly what you saw,
Yeah.
and you don't add any fuel to the fire because you don't want to get caught up in this crossfire.
And the thing is, too, right? So to go over, I kind of tried to write down what Jose said, but he says something to the effect that if she was my girl, some of the things that she was doing would be grounds for termination, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like, okay, while on paper, if my girl's just walking around the house in her underwear with her ex, okay, I understand what he's saying, right? But there's kind of a scale here, right? There's kind of a scale here because like you're dating Brittany, so you kind of know, like you have to put yourself not only in the mindset of if that was your girlfriend, but like if you agreed to be dating Brittany. I feel like there's more of a, you know what I mean? Like there's more things that you allow.
I take it a step further. Last season where they met, she was naked all the time.
Exactly.
She was walking around the house completely buck-ass naked. So, like, yes, if I were dating Brittany, I would prefer it if she was wearing more clothing around her ex. But she is wearing more clothing than she would normally wear. Right?
Exactly.
This is one of the questions I wrote down in my notes. Given what we've seen, do you think Brittany actually crossed any lines with Chuck?
No, I don't. I mean, because the thing is, here's the thing, right? Like, again, the point you just made about, what we're used to, like, it's Brittany, right? So I feel like if you've gotten to a point where you're accepting Brittany as your girlfriend, there are certain things that come along with that, right? Like you can't then turn around and get mad at her for doing things that Brittany would normally do, i.e. walking around in her underwear. Now, the stuff where she's like twerking on Chuck, like whatever, that was they were playing a game. You also have to remember they're on a TV show in a redemption house where they're trying to make it seem like there's stuff going on and make it seem entertaining. But overall, no, I don't think she crossed any lines. I feel like, there might have been some stuff that she wanted to get out and like she still might have been like in her feelings, quote unquote, about how her and Chuck ended. And so there were some things emotionally that she wanted to get out. But I don't think that she still like wanted to be with him and like did anything that crossed the line that if that were my ex, or sorry, if that was my girl, that I'd be that upset with. Like, I don't think Brad's going to go home, watch it and be like, oh my God, I can't believe she did that.
I wouldn't say that she still has feelings for Chuck necessarily. I think she still has feelings about Chuck.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I think she's obviously still very angry with him, and she admitted that she's still like sexually attracted to him. But there's a difference between having those feelings and acting on them. And I don't feel like she acted on them. Not really.
No, not at all.
I mean, she yelled at him, but, like, there was nothing, like... Think of that scene we saw when Polly and Natalie came into the Redemption House. Mm-hmm. And they went to talk to Jose and Mama Day, and Chuck was passed out in the room, right? Mm-hmm. Brittany was sleeping in another room. Like, they're not even sharing a room.
Yeah.
Like, that was clear, and, like, when Chuck went to get her coffee, like, it's clear that they were staying in different rooms.
For sure. But I think the overall point here, though, John, is, like, what is even the point of this, right? Like, even if something did happen, well, okay, forget about that. Even if, let's say, you're Jose and you decide, yeah, you know what? I'm going to make up all this stuff to get Brad rattled. Why is having Brad rattled that big of a deal? Like, Brittany's not in the house right now. She's not even in the Redemption House anymore. Neither is Chuck. So Brad being that rattled about Brittany possibly cheating or not, like, is that really affecting his and Kyle's game that much that he's going to be like... Do you know that, like, it just seems like it's not worth it anyways, and all you're doing is putting this whole target on your back anyways, because once he calls and talks to her, and she's obviously going to deny it or whatever, however they decide to play it up, however this all goes down, like, I just don't see it being worth it. Like, it's not like you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart if you're Jose. Like, you and Brad aren't that tight. So it just seems like you're trying to play this game for the sake of playing the game instead of it actually benefiting your game. Right? And that's the part that was kind of weird to me.
Breaking news, Brittany herself just tweeted.
Oh.
Literally just tweeted. Does no one remember Devin Walker and I running naked around the house last season? Ooh, and DJ Mel Reeves and I getting butt-ass naked, making out, and going skinny dipping? So I can be naked, but not in panties? That's like saying you're a virgin, but only do anal. And then she had the facepalm emoji and the, emoji, like one eyebrow raised and a hand on the chin.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's Brittany being Brittany. I feel like once you realize and you think that you're getting into this relationship with Brittany, there's certain things you got to just accept, right? And it's like, I don't think that he's going to go home and be rattled about it. But I do have another question for you in relation to this whole situation. What did you think of Brad's whole, like, super sad spiel about, he has a lot of stuff going on at home and he has 2 kids and, he had to plot out a lot of things and he's working on a budget because of a divorce, but he even made time to buy her a gift. And the producer's like, what did you buy her? And he's like, I bought her a little necklace. Like, what did you think of that whole scene?
Well, so I have to say, I like Brad. I'm going to preface all this by saying I like Brad, and I'm liking him a lot this season.
Okay.
And I remember when he was on Cutthroat, I really liked him. Like, he just seems like a solid guy.
Okay.
A good dude. A little too serious and, like, can be quite emotional. Mm-hmm. But, like, I think generally is a decent person. But last season, as Zach said, like, he kind of acted like an idiot because he was going through a divorce and he was having his post-divorce freak out. So I think what's going on isn't so much that he doubts Brittany's behavior with Chuck, it's that he's doubting his own behavior. Like, I think he sees on some level that he sort of overextended himself emotionally with Brittany because he was fresh off of that divorce and hurting. And, like, I don't want to say that she's a rebound, but, like, he was looking for love so hard that, like, now he's thinking to himself, like, oh, shit. Like, what have I just done? Like, I'm going through this divorce. I've got 2 kids. Money's an issue. And, like, did I just get
And
played?
Here I am, like, worrying about this girl running around in her underwear on national TV.
Yeah, like what did I just do? So I don't think, like, that's, I think, his thought process. And, like, I sympathize with that. And what I feel bad about is that like you and I just finished saying, I don't think Brittany actually cheated on him. I don't think she really crossed any lines with Chuck. So, like, it's hard seeing Brad hurting and doubting himself and, like, reasonably stressed out about it. Like, I understand why he's in his feelings.
Yeah. No, you made a good point there because I didn't really think of it from that sense, right? Like, I was thinking of it more from the gameplay aspect, but it's weird because I normally try to think of it from this perspective, but in this case I didn't. And, maybe you're right. It's Brad thinking about the TV show in terms of how he's looking on TV. Right? And that's what has him all rattled as opposed to, like, will it affect his gameplay? He's thinking, oh, man, like, I'm going through a bad divorce. Like, I have 2 kids. Like, I got boys at home. Like, what's going on? Like, what are they thinking watching this right now that I'm getting played by this young girl on TV, right? Like, I didn't think about that, John. You make a good point there. That's interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. So we move on to the actual competition.
Can I ask you a quick question, though?
Yes, always.
What are your thoughts on this Johnny Bananas and Angela thing? Do you have any thoughts on it? Do you just you're just like, whatever, get out of here, Johnny Bananas and Angela? Like, I've seen this game before.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, she has a boyfriend at home that she apparently lives with. everyone in the house seems to think that Angela doesn't actually have feelings for Johnny Bananas.
Yeah.
I have to say, I don't really see the chemistry between them.
No.
Right? Like, I don't see... Yeah, I don't see the chemistry. There's other relationships in the house where I believe it more, whereas this seems like a... Like, it seems like a showmance again.
Yeah.
Although he got more action with Angela than he did with Natalie, apparently. But
true. Although that kind of seemed like a thing where, you know, they were doing it for the camera, but at least he's doing a better acting job this time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because they're sprawled out, but they're not doing it with the camera right in front of their face. No. Right? So it's kind of like, okay, we know this will probably get caught on camera. But,
I also just think it's funny that, at least from what we see, so much of their conversations is just them talking about Johnny Bananas. Right? And it was the same thing with Natalie. They're like, oh,
yeah.
Associating yourself with me is going to get you in trouble. And like, oh, man, like, oh, no one trusts me. Oh, like, imagine for a second, Sheldon, that you were lying on a lounger with Johnny Bananas, just having a little cuddle sesh. And all he talked about was how you lying there is going to affect, like, being in his presence is going to affect you. Like, wouldn't that get old in a hurry?
For sure.
Wouldn't you be like, yo, ask me where I'm from, and, like, my interests are, like, stop talking about yourself for a minute.
No, totally. And that reminds me, too, of a conversation later on in the episode with him and Tony. Right? And like, Tony, he's trying to get answers from Tony. He just wants to know why, right? Would Tony do that? And I found it funny in that conversation because Bananas was like, you know, oh no, sorry. I guess it was leading into the actual challenge. And Bananas does a confessional and he's like, I didn't want Tony to feel like he was in my shadow, so I let him take the lead. And it's like, what, you let him? Like, how about you say, we discussed it and we decided that, you know, we'll let Tony go first. You know what I mean? But it just goes to show that everything is always about him being in charge.
Doesn't it make sense to have the, like, taller person go first?
Of course it does.
So that they can reach that rope and, like, get things moving and swinging?
We have to remember, Bananas thinks he's a man, right? So that doesn't matter. He would have been able to do it anyways. But he let Tony go first. Right?
How
so
good
that
of him.
Tony didn't feel that he was in his shadow. What a nice guy Johnny Bananas is, right? But I like that Tony stood up to him, though, later on in the episode when they were at the like bootleg club scene where nothing actually happens. But Bananas still seemed like kind of mad. But I like that Tony stood up to him and he's like, you know, he was tired of this whole little brother stuff, right?
That's so condescending that he keeps being like, you're like my little brother. Well,
you know what that is? That was and this is completely different, I know, but that was the like Kyrie Irving LeBron thing, right? Kyrie was like, yo man, I'm not your little brother. Like I hit the big bucket shot to win the championship. Okay. I'm not the little brother.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, it's a fair point. It's a good point. So
yeah, the other weird thing to point out about that though is I didn't realize Derek and Angela's relationship from X on the Beach or whatever the show was they were on. Mm-hmm. But I just gotta say, Derek just keeps taking L's, man. Poor guy. Like, yeah. The shot of him on the balcony just, like, watching them, it's like, bro, what are you doing? Right? Like, where's Derek's boys to be like, okay, Derek, you're on a TV show, man. Like, you gotta figure this shit out, man. Like, what is happening?
Yeah. Derek, we're gonna talk about Derek in a moment.
Fair enough.
The challenge itself, the hanging stakes.
Yeah.
Interesting to see some interesting dynamics at play. Mm-hmm. One of the first things that, of course, was striking was that the first two pairs up are two of our favorite teams. We've got Amanda and Zach, and then Joss and Sylvia.
Yeah.
And Joss seemingly forgot which girl was on his team. So we have confirmation that Joss and Amanda are enjoying each other's company.
Yes.
To quote her exactly, I have my boy meat Joss that I'm supposed to be competing against. And Zach falls, but Amanda makes it across. Um, and Sylvia falls because Joss doesn't really help her, but then Joss helps Amanda make the last little bit across. Which, like, it doesn't really matter because all that matters is, like, either you're the losers or you win.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, that's an alliance in its way, Joss and Amanda, and bringing those two partnerships together.
It was kind of cool to see, though, because you could tell that people that did make it across, whether or not both them and their partners made it, like, you could tell it was still a pretty cool feat for someone to make it across. Like, Amanda was super happy, Shane was super happy when he made it across, and other people were happy for them as well, like, super excited and cheering. Like, you could tell that it was a difficult challenge, and so when people actually did accomplish it, regardless of what their partner did, and they made it all the way across, it was a big deal. I think that was kind of cool to see.
Yeah, and I think it would be hard. Like, it looked like it was a tough one.
For sure. But there's definitely a strategy to it, right? Like, what should the strategy have been?
I think that obviously you want to go as fast as possible so that your muscles don't get burnt out, which is hard. Like, it's hard to go quickly. I think also the trick is you want to use your feet as much as possible to take the strain off your arms. The problem is, obviously, typically your feet are lower than your arms. And so when you put your feet on they had those, like, little rock climbing brackets. When you put your feet on those brackets, it shifts your weight. So you're still holding, like, it would swing the stake out laterally, and so you're still holding on with your hand mainly. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to get your weight on your feet. The only way you could do that was they had those, like, big, like, circles cut out of the stakes. If you got one of your feet up on that, then, like, you could really, like, plant your weight there. But even still, that's super high. So then you're, like, swinging from thing to thing really high.
I also think yeah, exactly. I also think the key was to kind of swing, or at least the biggest part I thought was the person who's in front needed to make sure that they were pushing the stake or the rope that they just left back to their partner. And I feel like not many of the groups realize that. Like, Josh definitely didn't, right? Like, he kind of just motored his way across. And I think because he found it easy, there's the assumption that, oh, my partner should find this at least somewhat as easy as I did. And so if I could get across without someone pushing the rope for me, then they should as well. And I think that's where the breakdown of, you know, we see the flaws of what happened to Cara and Marie, or the flaw of what happened to Joss and Sylvia, or the flaw that happened to, I don't know if there was much CT could have done, but do you know what I mean? Like, well, even with Mama Day and Jose, right? Which, you know, was another thing where they kind of forgot that the person who was in front, you really had to play an important role, because not only were you supposed to get out to a lead, but you also needed to help your partner, right? And I think that was a strategy point. But hey, that's me saying that while sitting on my couch watching, not suspended, 30, 40 feet in the air. So
yeah, it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
In fairness.
Definitely. What else was the big thing that stood out to you from that? Was it CT and Veronica, you think?
CT and Veronica, and how CT handled his business after Veronica shat the bed. First of all, we missed something in our recaps. Yep. And that was, there's a scene where Shane and CT are talking about Veronica.
Yes.
And CT is like, hey, did you work out today? And Veronica's like, no, I'll work out tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And she was, like, clearly all done up to go out to the club. And he's like, so you're just going to have, like, some glasses of water and keep it easy? And she's like, well, no. She's like, there's nothing to do but drink. And he's like, no, you can work out. Like, that's something to do. And she was like, we'll talk about this later. And then I really sympathize with CT in this moment because he's got a point. There's not a lot to do in the house. What's an hour of working out?
But here's the thing, right? And don't get me wrong, CT is correct, right? Like in the grand scheme of things, CT is correct. Like he just wants to see some form of effort, right? So I understand where he's coming from. The problem is this is kind of like we probably shared a science class or a geography class together, John, when we were in high school, right? And here was, I don't know how a lot of other people operate, but for me, cramming the night before for a test wasn't really going to do much for me at all, right?
No.
So either I knew it well in advance or I had an idea of what I was doing well in advance or I was going to fail because cramming for it ahead of time wasn't going to do anything. And so on the other hand, I see where Veronica's coming from and she's like, we're already here. Like me working out now isn't going to help me like run a mile. Like if I was training leading up to the challenge, which I don't think she was, because, you know, we've talked about it a lot on this podcast. There's a lot of different reasons or strategies that people have for why they're on the show, right? And hers might just be to, oh, it's an easy check. I get to go to these great locations. I get to, you know, party and have fun. And as far as I make it, I'll play the political game and whatever. But the whole, like, I'm Cara, I work out every day, I got, like, huge muscles, that's not really her game. And that's not going to change in a day. So nagging her to, like, work out isn't really going to accomplish much other than start an argument, no?
Yeah, I agree with you. And, I mean, I think he could have handled the competition better, where he just had to, like, encourage her to be, like, as she made the point, like, she's short, like, get the first stake swinging to her so she can jump on it.
Exactly.
Make it easier for her, and then just, like, encourage her. And, like, in theory, on paper, and he made this point later, they should be a killer team.
Yeah.
He just has to learn to work with what he has, rather, like, work with what she brings to the table, rather than trying to, like, remake her into the second coming of Cara Maria. Because that ship has sailed.
Well, that's a part, too, right, that we keep harping on. There's such a huge, like, other portion of what this game is. Like, everything you do is so dependent upon your partner. You're only going to go as far as your partner is going to allow you to get to, right? And so if you're not helping your partner, that's not good. But also, like, on the little kid, like, the thing you tell, like, Little League baseball players, you know what I mean? Like, your attitude is so much more important than what you physically end up doing. And CT might have run himself into a position where he was already so defeated once he found out his partner was Veronica. You know what I mean? That he probably can't get out of his own head. And he's already, you know, the built-in excuse is already there. Oh, well, Veronica's my partner, so of course I'm going to lose.
But I have to say, all that said, I did like that as soon as they, like, bombed out, it's not like CT finished either. Like, he could have helped their case as well.
I mean, it was interesting.
I liked that CT tried to fuck with Jose's head.
I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was really funny. But the other part was, it wasn't like he just faked out Jose, right? Like, other people were faked out too.
Everyone.
No. But he was yelling that at Jose. But I mean, Mama Day seemed actually kind of fooled because it's not like, I forget who they were up there against, but they kind of hesitated as well, right? It just Jose looked the worst in terms of he was like psyched out the most by it. But I feel like they were all fooled because it's not like anyone was like, no, just go. He's messing with you. Like, by the time Mama Day said that, Jose already did like kind of 3 or 4 like looking as if he's trying to jump in the double Dutch rope. You know what I mean? And so it was so hilarious by CT, and I think Joss was like dying with laughter right beside him as well. Like, it was just super funny how that played out, and a solid strategy because CT knew at that point, hey, we need people to fall right away. Yeah. So,
and that was the best shot.
Yeah, that was his best shot. That was his best shot for sure.
Zach said
Jose still can't swim though.
No, not really.
I thought that was kind of funny.
In fairness to Jose, apparently it's very difficult to learn how to swim as an adult. Just like it's
That
very
makes
hard
sense.
to learn how to ride a bike as an adult.
Hey, that makes sense because I feel like you have less fear as a kid, right? Whereas an adult, you're like stuck in your ways about certain things, right? Like you have so many things already ingrained and built into your mentality of what you can and can't do, and physically what you can and can't do, right? And so
Yeah.
as a kid, you're just like fearless. You're like, yeah, yeah, I'll get on this bike, and if I fall, you're like, you might be afraid of falling, but you're still gonna do it. Whereas an adult, you're like, nah, I'm not trying that.
The other thing
So,
is that your inner ear and therefore your balance as you get older gets worse.
oh,
And so if you're not used to swimming as a kid, if you're trying it as an adult, it's much harder because like if you're used to swimming, you take for granted that you know like which way is up, but if you're not good at swimming and you're trying it as an adult, and
yeah.
your inner ear is not as good, you're like it's more easy to get disoriented in the water.
Yeah, and I mean that's what we saw with Jose. I mean, you had
Yeah.
Zach saying Jose might be the worst male player in challenge history, which I think is kind of harsh.
I was going to
But
ask, is he right?
no, I don't think he's the worst player ever. Like
The worst
that's
male
that's
challenger? He said the
that's
worst male
hard.
challenger.
True, but I mean, I don't know if I've seen enough from Jose to call him the worst ever. Like he just can't swim, right? Like we've seen people
Yeah.
who can't swim before, right? So I'm not going to call him the worst ever. I don't know who is the worst ever, but I feel like there were people that were worse competitors than Jose. And especially Jose just won a challenge, you know? He just won an elimination round. I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
there's
true.
people
He
that like
did.
consistently always lost eliminations.
I'll tell
Um,
you one thing about Jose. He has a better elimination record than Paulie does.
that is a fact.
Just throwing that out there for all you
Hey,
Paulie lovers.
that is correct. I mean, I did like Bananas' line that he paid $2,000 for swimming lessons. Like, is that expensive for swimming lessons?
Yeah.
It sounds
Again, for an
expensive, right?
adult. For an adult,
Yeah,
yeah.
true. True, true, true.
So CT and Veronica lose, go straight to the Redemption House.
They do.
CT is so mad he won't even say goodbye to the rest of the house.
Yeah.
And so they arrive at the Redemption House. CT immediately fills himself a huge glass of wine and walks out. And he did the kind of glass of wine pour where it's like glugging, like
Yeah.
there's air bubbles coming up. Like he's not doing a gentle pour. He's like, honestly, when they showed him doing it, I thought he immediately found the bottle of wine and was pouring it into the drain so that she could not drink it. But then I saw that in fact he was just pouring himself a glass of wine, which is reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was kind of funny. And I thought that for a split second, I thought he might have been pouring it for Veronica to then be like, this is what you wanted anyways. But no, he was just pouring it for himself and then walked away, which I thought was
So
kind of funny.
I thought it was funny. And let's talk about booze in the challenge house.
Okay.
Let's just take a minute because we have a listener note on this that I feel like is worth reading out.
Okay. I'm always
Uh,
down for listener notes.
Weston Bergman from Kansas City writes, we haven't been allowed or provided dark alcohol in over 10 years. It's because it makes us angry, not entertaining angry, bad angry. They give us wine and vodka, but only during set times where they want us drinking. It's an insurance violation to have us around booze during very large periods of time through almost every day, such as during the actual challenges. So the heavy drinkers would hoard vodka and hide it in things like water bottles so they can drink during times we're not supposed to drink. So production started dyeing the vodka blue to make it harder to hide. This has been a thing since the ruins.
Interesting.
This season, those directions were improperly told to whatever low-level producer was in charge of booze. And so they accidentally dyed all the booze, not just the vodka, including the wine. It's still blue, but the blue plus the yellow wine makes the drink green.
Ah.
Hence the green wine. Thank you, Wes.
that is information we need to know. And I'm not even being facetious. I'm being dead ass serious. I like that. That is solid information. That is why we do this podcast, for notes and nuggets like that. Okay. I like it.
That's a tasty nug right there.
I like it.
So continuing with the CT Veronica debate, they get the wine into them, the green wine.
Yep.
And it gets heated, and like Paulie and Natalie are kind of stuck in the middle. And CT, I think, has a very fair point that on paper, they should be a good team. Mm-hmm. Like between the two of them, CT and Veronica is one of the winningest women in challenge history. It's just she hasn't won in, I think, a decade.
She's kind of like
I'm not saying that facetiously. I can't speak this morning. I'm not saying that sarcastically. I really don't think has won in a decade. But before that, she used to dominate. She was the Cara Maria plus Wes of her time.
You know what? It's kind of like how Lenny Wilkins, I feel like Lenny Wilkins was, for the longest while, like the winningest coach in NBA history.
Yeah.
But it was only because he was around for so long.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, that's a backhanded compliment. It wasn't only because of that, but a big reason for that was because he coached for so long. And I'm pretty sure his record overall was somewhere in and around the 500 level. Yeah. Right? As a coach. But even still, it's one of those things where, hey, experience should matter. And especially in the challenge house, as opposed to being an NBA coach, if you're CT and Veronica, your experience in this game should count for something. And there has to be a way where at least, like, you have to come to a conclusion where, okay, in this challenge, all we have to do is just not lose. Right? Like, you need to figure out that mentality, right? And know that, okay, well, if we're not going to win, we're not going to be the best team. We just need to ensure that we don't lose. And how do you ensure that you don't lose? Well, you at least go one rope across. And they couldn't even get that accomplished.
Yeah.
I think that's what had CT the most mad, right? Like, it wasn't even the fact that they lost. It was that they lost that badly and that everybody else went across. And he kept referring to team layup, right? And that has to be so depressing for CT, one of the greatest dudes ever in the challenge history. That's not even hyperbole, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be on team layup, like, that's tough. Because at least normally, old school CT, would be able to figure out a way to carry his teammate and, carry them through. Remember, CT had to work with Adam on one of the seasons, right? Adam wasn't one of the greatest players there was, but CT was able to motivate him and like elevate his game to another level. Why? Yeah. Because Adam at least wanted to try. Adam had a vested interest in trying to like prove something to CT. Veronica's mentality, I don't think, is that at all. Veronica kind of is like, well, he knows who I am by now. Like, he knows we're going to get to a certain point, but she's not trying to prove anything to CT, and I think that's what makes him kind of mad.
I honestly hope that they pull it together, because I would much rather see CT and Veronica back in the house than Paulie and Natalie. Like, there's no comparison.
Yeah, no, agreed.
There is no comparison. Like, I like Veronica. Just so we're clear, like, I think she's funny. I think she's attractive. Like, I like what she brings to the house. I like her dynamic. I obviously love CT. So, and I have no patience for Paulie, and I'm not super interested in Natalie. So,
yeah, I'm
definitely rooting for them.
I totally understand the character that is Natalie and people that are not Natalie, Veronica, and people that are like Veronica on this show, right? And I think that's part of the essence of the challenge, that not everybody is the like superstar prized athlete, and there is supposed to be another side of the game that is more about the politicking and the house drama and making sure that you play an important role with your vote, right? And I think that's the part where the CT Veronica team, it's like the only chance they had was the fact that people might not want to vote for them because you don't want to go against CT in an elimination challenge that could be a physical challenge.
No,
right? And
as you say, you don't want that smoke.
Exactly, right? And so I think that was a big thing for them this season. And so one of the ways for them to lose would be to just straight lose and end up in the elimination round. And that's what happened to them. I think that's a more frustrating part for CT, right? And again, I think his mentality, like he was more already, he had it in his head already that he was gonna be let down by Veronica and that she didn't care. And I think that was the biggest problem. And then her attitude where she's like swearing back at him, I was kind of like, hold on, Veronica, like you don't get to be mad at him in this instance, right? Like even if he's being a jerk to you, you have to understand that this is all your fault.
Yeah.
That was my opinion. Like I understand sportsmanship. I understand that you guys are partners and you're a team. And even what Natalie was saying, that even though it was her fault, Paulie never really got mad at her, which is correct, which is true. But hey, maybe Paulie's just a better dude. But at the end of the day, right is right and wrong is wrong. And you did nothing for the team. Like you blatantly let CT down.
Well,
you didn't even try.
On.
You got 0. Natalie at least tried and didn't make it. Natalie at least like did something. Veronica didn't do anything.
I agree.
She might as well have just quit.
I agree with you, but let's pump the brakes for a second here. Because if Paulie says to Natalie, we lost because of you, do you know what Natalie can say? We got put in because of you.
True. Also
like,
true.
Who's the bigger liability on the Natalie or Paulie team? Natalie or Paulie?
10,000% true. It is Paulie.
Yeah. And I know that Marie and some of our other peeps who are in the house have made it clear that they got voted in originally. Paulie and Natalie got voted in originally because no one likes Natalie. Mm-hmm. Which, like, I believe, but, like, now, if they come back into the house, like, they're gonna have problems because of Paulie. Like, people are gonna be gunning for them because of Paulie.
Yeah. No. I totally agree with you, right? And I think that they're, something I've been talking about a lot on our basketball podcast because of the DeMar DeRozan Kawhi Leonard thing, right? Like there's levels to this shit, right? Is one of the things I like to say in stealing a line from my guy Meek Millie. But the thing is, right, there's levels in this as well because if you look at what we're talking about, okay, there's levels of difference between the Paulie and Natalie dynamic than there is to the CT and Veronica dynamic than there is to, let's say, the Derrick and what's his girl's name? Why am I drawing such a blank? Tori dynamic, right? And what I mean by that is CT is like a champ. We know CT's resume is legit and proven, and we know that Veronica is clearly bringing him down. Like we know CT would be one of the favorites to win for sure if he wasn't partnered with anyone else other than Veronica. In those other situations where we think their partners are letting them down, Derrick is still putting up an effort and holding Tori down, but it's not like Tori is like dominating the whole thing and then it's like Derrick's just like shitting the bed. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like that. Same thing with Natalie, as you just broke down, right? They have a big target on their back because of Paulie, not necessarily because of Natalie. Yes, that might have initially been it, but now definitely it's a Paulie thing. That's why I'm saying, like, of all people, if you're Veronica, you cannot get mad at CT in this instance because in the level of where CT is in this game to where everyone else is, you can't get mad at him, Veronica, at all. You got to understand why he's so pissed. And she said it, oh, you're just used to winning, as if like that was a negative. And he's like, yeah, of course I'm used to winning, right? Like I just found that so weird.
Yep, I agree. So then back in the main house, we have they go to the Club of Jace. It's not a very great club, but you'll take what you can get.
I was excited. I thought Coco's would have been a great club. It just seemed like a good club name.
You said that you fell in love with the Cocos?
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
Did there. Solid song by OT Genesis.
Bananas and Tori are talking shit about Brittany and how they find her annoying. And Johnny Bananas says, Brad's a really great dude. I really like him. I hope he dumps her and just like moves on.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, we have the scene that you and I already alluded to where Tony and Johnny are clearly having a loud, drunk, shouting conversation. You know the kind. We've all been in them. And they're sort of, Johnny is still salty about getting thrown in. Tony is explaining that he resents being called Johnny's little brother. And I don't blame Tony for resenting that, but at the same time, he sort of is Johnny's little brother. Right? Like, I can
Fair
see
enough, yeah.
Johnny has to pump the brakes on that, but also Tony has to recognize that, like, he's still doing some growing. Mm-hmm. And then I hate that we're going to talk about this for at least 5 minutes.
Can we put our foot down and like agree to not talk about this for more than 2 minutes? Because I don't care about Kayleigh and Nelson at all. Like, I really don't. There's no angle of this that I care about at all.
I'm gonna put a timer on this for real. All right, I'm gonna legitimately time 2 minutes on this. Well, hold on. When's the clock starting?
Right now.
Okay,
so we're supposed to believe that Kayleigh's mad because she sees Nelson talking to Faith, and the same thing happened when they were at the house and Kayleigh sees him talking to Faith and she's getting mad thinking Nelson's flirting, but she doesn't really like Nelson. And then they're drunk and Nelson's trying to talk to her back at the house and she's just telling him to walk away. And there's really two things I want to get out here about this. The only two things I actually care about. One is, why the hell does Nelson keep saying, "Do you fancy me?" Like, you don't speak like that, Nelson. That is not a level of your vocabulary. You do not talk like that. You do not use fancy in that context, okay? You're not from the UK, first. Second, anytime, gentlemen, young fellas, young bucks listening to this podcast, word of advice, anytime you are talking to a lady friend and she tells you to walk away, listen to her.
Yes.
That is all I'm going to say. It's really that simple. Anytime. And hey, I understand. I'm an old head. I understand. I've been in that situation before. I made said mistake where you're trying to argue with her about whatever. Let me tell you, it's not worth it. Whatever you're arguing about, whatever you're trying to convince her about in that drunken moment, it's not worth it.
No.
So just listen to her and walk away.
We have 50 seconds left, so I'm going to make this brief. First of all, it's so clearly obvious that, I mean, Nelson's very smitten, but that Kayleigh is toxic. This, like, being shitty to him and then, like, getting jealous because he's talking to someone else.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. She says that she thinks he's always, her words, always inappropriate with women when he talks to them, like, too flirty. I don't think he is. He strikes me as, if anything, too respectful. And from what we saw of his conversation with Faith, they only spoke about him and Kayleigh. We have 2 seconds left.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, that's
Stop
fine.
saying fancy. Although when I did hear the word fancy, I kept thinking of, "Oh, you fancy, huh? Oh, you fancy, huh?" That was for our guy, 91 Dan Marino. I'm guessing he's a Drake fan.
91 Dan Marino, who, I should add, he tweeted at us, and I will read his tweet out.
He did tweet at us.
Oh, Twitter sent me back to the top of my mentions. This is going to take a minute.
Oh, someone's mentions seem to be all filled up, huh? Must be nice. Someone's super popular. Their mentions are just that crazy, huh?
Yeah, I had a tweet and it went big.
I got it here. He says, "Thanks for a shout out, guys. Sheldon was absolutely right about my handle name. Haha. Question. Why should the first people in the Redemption House get to pick first, though? In my opinion, I think the last person should get the advantage because they lasted longer in the actual game." So that was obviously in reference to...
That's a fair point.
Yeah, it makes sense. Definitely makes sense. I see the argument going both ways. I just think, again, as we discussed last week, I thought it was a big push for the Big Brother, Team Big Brother, to be a part of this show. Yeah. As the season of Big Brother continues. Dun, dun, dun.
This is not quite about Kayleigh and Nelson, but I want to give a shout out to Kayleigh Cam. Because she did something smart.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed this, but when Kayleigh and Nelson were back at the house and they're getting into it, suddenly Cam appears beside Kayleigh's elbow. Like, is right there.
Okay.
And I just thought it was very smart to go immediately stand next to her very drunk partner who's getting heated, so that in case hands are thrown, not that Cam would jump into the fight, but that Cam could restrain Kayleigh. Because Cam's run out of partners who can get into fights. Right? Like, Cam was smart to be present, that had the presence of mind to be like, I need to be here so that I can insert myself into the situation and prevent my teammate from getting kicked out. Like, I think that's what Cam was thinking, and I think that's smart. So I don't count that as talking about Kayleigh and Nelson, because I'm just praising Cam for being smart, having a good head on her shoulders.
Interesting. Okay. That's interesting. The one thing I will say as well, John, speaking of, the feedback that we've been getting, the big discussion we had last week was about Pauly, and do people actually like Pauly? And you were telling me, yes, there is a solid Pauly contingent, which, I mean, yeah, you were definitely right. You were talking about how you saw it last week and it continued this week. And I mean, I understood on a baseline level that there would be the Pauly stands that like him because they find him very attractive. I was amazed at how many people liked Pauly because they found it entertaining, right?
Yeah.
Like, it might not have been that, they agreed with him or they were on his side, but they thought that it was entertainment in a season that was lacking a lot of entertainment so far, which is something I didn't think of.
Someone just posted this morning. I'm blanking on their name. Let me look it up. But Sasha, I'm going to mispronounce his last name. Sasha Seute, Seute. Seute? I'm sorry, Sasha. I'm just going to call you Sasha.
Shout out to Sasha.
Sasha said, I don't love Pauly, but I don't hate him either. I love a good pot stirring, especially in the elimination ring. Can't deny it makes good TV. Granted, it would have been better if he'd actually won, but hey, I'd take Pauly making a fool of himself any day of the week over having to spend one more episode on the BS, non-existent Nelson-Kayleigh relationship nonsense. And I can't disagree with that logic.
Yeah, I will co-sign that for sure. Shout out to you, Sasha. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So I have to ask you, what was your line of the night?
So my line of the night doesn't necessarily come from the show per se, but it was more from the Twitter sphere afterwards. But it stems from something that happened in the show. There was talk of a tattoo. Kyle and Brad are feeling themselves, especially Kyle after winning again, and talks of getting a number 2 tattoo, right? Because they keep coming in second. He says about Johnny Bananas and Tony. And Tony on Twitter says that hey, Kyle, you should get a number 2 tatted on you because you're a piece of, and then put the poop emoji up.
Love it.
I thought that was pretty funny. I'm going to give Tony the line of the night, the line of the episode for that. Also because I didn't find this episode that entertaining at all, so there wasn't that much to choose from.
I would say my line, I have 2 contenders.
Okay.
There was CT said of Veronica, I'll tell you what, if that was a glass of wine, she'd still be up there, referring to the hanging stakes. I thought that was hilarious. And I liked when Shane said that Derrick has popcorn muscles, that he looks like a pro athlete, but yeah, that was good. I like the phrase popcorn muscles. All show, no go.
It's a very solid, breakdown of Derrick's performance on this challenge. I'd like to say something too, on behalf of the brother contingent of this podcast.
Yes.
We need Leroy back. And the reason I say this is because, listen, man, I understand the fact that bravo to the challenge for having more and more brothers on, shout out for that. I appreciate that a lot. Representation is something that the challenge does really well as opposed to most shows. But we need Leroy back because the brothers that we have on the challenge right now, I'm just kind of like, guys, making us look bad, man. Making us look bad.
Yeah.
Derrick, like, what? Like, I don't know, man.
It-
And it's not only just a gameplay, right? It's not
Yeah.
only just a gameplay. But Derrick and Nelson, it's like you're off the court issues is what I'll say.
And Jose.
And Jose, I'm not. Jose just can't swim. That seems to be his biggest problem so far in this season. But I mean, hopefully things will change. Hopefully the tide will turn. But it makes me miss Leroy. That's all I'll say.
You know
Shouts to
what?
Roy Lee.
I was watching Real World Portland this past weekend. There was a marathon of it on MTV Canada this past weekend.
Yep.
And first of all, I remember that season as being tremendously boring, but then like Naya shows up and shit pops off.
Shout out to Hurricane Naya. Yes.
And like in the long run, there's some great characters on it. Like that's where Jordan came from. Naya, Johnny Riley, Avery has had her moments. Chef
Jessica.
Jess,
Yep.
but the person who that I miss the most is Marlon.
I totally forgot about him.
Marlon,
I did catch an episode of that too, and I totally forgot about that dude.
He was such a solid, good guy, and to your point, was very athletic and just like was a solid guy that you would love to have in a challenge house. Like,
Was he ever on the challenge?
yeah, he was.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I think he was only on one season, maybe
Okay.
2 seasons. There was a big fuss because he hooked up with, that guy who is a really good swimmer from Real World Brooklyn. Oh, I'm going to forget that guy's name. But yeah, they hooked up under a bridge in the pool, and people were like a little freaked out.
Oh, I don't remember this. See, I don't remember this, but I'm sure we have our challenge stands in all the chat groups. We'll definitely remember and
Yes.
jog my memory. But yeah, and hey, as I said, as I make the joke of the Chappelle show representing the quote unquote African American delegation, shout out to Kayleigh Cam who keeps holding it down. But yeah, Nelson, Derrick, come on, guys. Step your game up, man. Step your game up.
So I have to ask you, who killed it for you this week?
I mean, I guess I gotta say Brad. I don't know. Nobody killed it this week. I'm gonna be honest. No, nobody killed it this week. I am not handing out a You Killed It award this week because I need this season of the challenge to step its game up as a whole. Because I'm getting annoyed now. I need more like gameplay. I need more strategy. I need more just anything other than I don't care about Kayleigh and Nelson's relationship. I don't care about Cara and Kyle's relationship. I didn't care about Cara and Paulie's relationship. Well, I guess that I don't even know if that ever actually happens on camera or not, but I guess we'll see. But just get me to why I love this game of the challenge. And the reason why I love the game of the challenge was because it was a great balance of strategy, of competitions, of drunken hookups, and drunken fights. It was a perfect balance of all those. And now the balance of power seems to have shifted to the side of just all reality, right? I watch enough terrible reality TV, okay? I watch enough terrible, whether it's Bachelorette or Bachelor in Paradise or Big Brother. No, not Big Brother. That's a competition. Or Vanderpump Rules or like all those other dumb shows. I see enough of that dumb stuff, okay? I need the challenge to get back to business. And until then, I will not give out another You Killed It award.
Good for you.
Taking a stand.
You know what? I'm going to stand with you. I was gonna
In unity, yes.
Yeah, unity, strength through unity. I was gonna say, I guess Brad. I guess Amanda, like she's getting it on with Joss. She did well in the competition, but you know what? We don't give out participation ribbons on You Killed It.
Right?
We don't pat people on the back for doing what they're supposed to do. We need people to go above and beyond the Call of Duty. We need power moves.
Agreed.
It would cheapen the previous MVPs we've given out Like when Devin manipulated the house into putting him against Johnny Bananas and then eliminated Johnny Bananas.
Yes.
Like, we can't put Brad or Amanda's performance on the same level as something like that.
Exactly. You know what? We just saw Ray Lewis get into the Hall of Fame speech and get into the Hall of Fame with his speech. And like Ray Lewis, I'm also pissed off for greatness, right?
Yeah.
I'm not just okay with being mediocre. And right now the challenge is being mediocre. I want to make the challenge great again.
Well, I don't love that phrase, but I'm with your spirit. I'm with your spirit. I guess on that note, on that stirring Spartacus moment.
So good. So good.
Until next week, this was You Killed It.
You killed it.
You could barely get it out. You were laughing so hard.
I know. It's true.